What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are here at Lake Julian Disc Golf Course, and I am so excited about this because we're back. Prism Proton Pyro versus Get Freaky Zone. The Get Freaky, while it has its moments and it is amazing, and as far as the zone goes, this is a really, really good zone. Something about the zone mold, you get drastic changes in flights depending on how you throw it. And while that's understandable and it makes sense and you want that, you want to have different flights depending on how you throw it. The problem I was running into was the zone was giving me the flights that I didn't want on the wrong throws. So I wanted it to be overstable when I throw it harder, but it's straighter. And then when I throw it softer, I want it to be kind of straight as an approach disc, but then it's more overstable, which makes sense because that's the way plastics are supposed to work. But I would rather have a throwing putter and a mid-range. Sorry, it's just me. Something about the zone is just a little off for me personally. We're still gonna pair these up. We're gonna battle these out, and I did bring out the Rhino as well just because it's not going to be every throw, but there's specific throws that the zone does that are very similar to the Rhino, and hopefully I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. But let's go ahead and match up Get Freaky Zone versus Prism Proton Pyro. We are on hole number 9 here at Lake Julian. We're gonna go with the backhand road hyzer. So if we skip off the road, great. We're trying to actually air it so we don't hit the street. Get Freaky is first. Yep, it's very controllable on that hyzer angle, and it's kind of exactly what you want. The Pyro, just a little bit more mid-rangey and a little bit less puttery. Same amount of power. I get more glide, more push, and more fade with the Pyro than I do with the zone. Now let's go mix up the throw styles a little bit and see if it varies any for us. Jumped over to hole 11 for the forehand tunnel shot. Pyro has first point and the box. So we're gonna go Pyro and then zone. And then I also want to throw the Rhino on here because this is one of the shots where the zone is too much like a putter for me. Oh, well, early release on the Rhino, but you saw just that initial little out of the hand. The Pyro, it's the zone at the speed that the zone is stable at. The zone is more stable than the Pyro, but the Pyro is almost unrivaled as far as torque resistance, especially in this stability, because to get something that's not that overstable, but you can still throw it and torque it as hard as you want to, and it's really just not going to burn. It's hard to get that. It's hard to beat that. And when you find a disc that works, stick with it. And hey, look, that's 2-0 for the Pyro. So the main issue I was having, hold on, you're not high enough. One of the main things I was noticing with the zone was that if I could get it on the Anheuser to get that big flex shot, it would never really flex. It would flex out and pan out, but it would never come back and give me the true S flight. So we're gonna try to throw that shot here. Pyro obviously has some sneaky good traction here. See that fade? You can throw it at something, bend it around, fade back behind it. Now for the zone. I mean, you got very end, but let me show you the Rhino. Because when you have a slower speed rim, like a zone or a Rhino or any throwing putter, once you get it on the Anheuser, it doesn't have quite enough stability to fully flex back, especially if there's wind. And while the zone is great, it flew like a mid-range when I wanted a putter shot, and it flew like a putter when I wanted a mid-range shot. So it's amazing at what it does, and some people really love what it does. It is quite literally the actual reverse of the disc I want. But the Give Freaky is the best zone I've ever thrown. Zone, the problem I have with the zone is actually the reason it took the last point. It turned over too much and stayed center fairway, whereas this faded out as a demonstration throw. And yeah, so zone with 1, Pyro with 2. We are here on hole 15. Gonna go for the forehand, but this is gonna be one of those where I think the zone's gonna be too straight because I have to throw it so hard to get it there. That's great, but it's not. I want it more right. Watch the Pyro. Basically the same throw. The zone kind of turned and drifted a little bit, and the Pyro stayed true to its line. That is 3. Let's go on to 16. We're gonna throw another forehand, and then let's go throw a backhand or 2. Hole 16, we're gonna go with the little bit of a soft flex, but pretty much just a flat release. Push them out there, let them dump towards the basket. Pyro, 3-1 right now. It's so easy. Like, I don't have to try, and it just does it. Let me throw the Rhino to show. The zone isn't enough different from a Rhino for me to think about bagging both, and I'm way more comfortable with a Rhino than I am with a zone, which is where the problem is coming from. See, it's a little less stable than the zone, but it was almost identical release angles on all 3. The Pyro was a touch more Anheuser than the other 2, which is why we saw the drift out of the Pyro. But the other 2, there's just not enough there on the rim for them to come back. And I'm more comfortable with the Rhino than the zone, which is why it's gonna be Rhino all day for me. Let's go throw a backhand off at 18, and then we'll close this out. The zone is it's just a little bit too off. It's just a little bit too off. Sorry. I know all you zone lovers out there. I'm sorry. It's just not for me. Wild and wonderful hole 18. We're gonna throw the Pyro on a backhand anhyzer flex. Want to get the big panning anhyzer with the flex back at the end. And then we're gonna try to throw the zone on the same shot. And when you get it out into actual fairway conditions, the zone just doesn't quite hang. This shot isn't about which one goes further. It's not about which one goes straighter. This is actually about which one has more play left to right and back to the left, right? I want this slot to have the flex. The zone doesn't quite get there for me. Right? It moved so much to the right and then back to the left. Now the zone on the same angle, same shot, doesn't quite do that. It just kind of swings and then drops. Very similar to how a rhino flies. Very similar to how a rhino flies. It faded, see? And that's what people would tell me. The zone faded. That wasn't a fade. That was a drop out of the sky. This slot, I want it to be able to swing and to have the integrity to still fade out of it at the end. The zone's just not there for me. Hopefully you enjoy content like this. If you want to see me pair up anything else against the Pyro, if you have any discs, any mid-ranges, or even slow fairway drivers that you have that you think might have a chance of kicking the Pyro out of my bag, make sure to comment those down below. I'm willing to check all of your suggestions, and we're going to put them to the test. Just be aware that it might turn into another zone. If you enjoy this, make sure to like the video. If you want to see new stuff, comment all of that down below. Please make sure to subscribe. Helps you guys out with these subscriber-only giveaways. Definitely helps me out as well. And until next time, see you out on the course.